You're listening to Almost Beach Glass Interviews. I'm Gil. I'm really interested in the creative process. Today, my guest is...
I'm Hannah Strickland, or Hannah Wyatt, and I live in Bellingham. I'm a violinist and a songwriter in the area.
What words of wisdom do you have for aspiring artists?
What I see a lot from my friends, I don't want to throw them under the bus, but I love their music so much that I feel I have to say it, but I want people to just release things more often and not
How horrible of you to say.
not get like just wrapped up in the mind game of relentlessly just like chucking away at the same album for like 3 years or even longer. Sometimes I see it just kills me. Like, I just want people to just throw your shit on the wall and just let it stick, and I want to hear it.
So are we talking about the ideas of professionalism and perfectionism kind of overlapping or maybe getting mistaken for one another?
I don't know. It's hard because I'm definitely a perfectionist. It's something I've struggled with my whole life. But I think that when it comes to like being an indie artist and releasing stuff on your own, you really have to train yourself to not succumb to the temptation to become a perfectionist with your stuff. It's really hard for me because I want everything to be perfect, and I understand the philosophy that draws people to like listen to the same song and just change one plug-in knob for like 5 years. I understand it.
I feel exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Of that, everyone will really get what I'm talking about when they hear that hi-hat be just 1 dB louder.
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with the pressure, because if you didn't feel pressure when you're putting that stuff out there, you wouldn't be so attached to the needing it to be perfect. So like when I first started putting stuff out, I don't know, there was a lot of pressure for me to get onto playlists and for it to be like more commercially viable.
Really quick. Did that pressure come internally or externally about the playlists?
It was both, because I would say I'm speaking more to like my college time.
Now, for our listeners, for a little bit of background, you went to an engineering or an audio engineering school or a music school, or was it?
It was just a liberal arts school that had an audio engineering program.
Understood. Okay.
So, and that was great, and it was a great 4 years. But I got sucked up in I don't know. I was learning all the things that you need to learn to make stuff produced well, which is great to know. But at the time, the projects that we were assigned and the albums that I was making, a lot of it was for the purpose of like having really clean sound and getting things really well produced and trying to get on playlists and stuff. And so it was external, but at the time I thought that's also what I wanted. So it was also internal. It was a combination of the two. And ever since I've gotten, out of college and been just kind of in the woods, like I've really expanded my production style to something very different from what I thought I wanted in college. I'm trying to go much more lo-fi and experimental with the stuff that I put out, and that's what I've always wanted to do, but I don't know, I was distracted by like the perfectionism of studying audio engineering and wanting everything to be like the cleanest vocals and the, and now I'm like using weird EQs and having like warp on the guitar and tape saturation and crackling and hum, and it's very different from what we were taught, but like I feel like learning the rules first was helpful into like knowing how I'm breaking them. Same thing with like music theory, which we discussed before. Is I recommend learning music theory for everybody, even if you don't want to use it. Like my boyfriend Tim loves to go against tradition in every way possible, and he even is a big music theory nerd because he knows how to break the rules. He knows what rules he's breaking.
So I feel like we kind of touched upon so many different things that are really cool. To just swing back around to what you're saying about your academic experience, that it educated you towards some really awesome variables to keep in mind, but that kind of goes inherent with learning anything, that you kind of internalize those. Your interests in going against the grain, in vein of like your and Tim's interests, is that something that you've always been interested in regards to like the hum and crackling and stuff? Or did that grow after you're learning the rules?
That's tough because one of my favorite artists has always been DSer. And I found his music before I even went to college. And I was obsessed with his style.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I guess, I was young and I guess I just didn't really think about how to even apply that to my own stuff. I think I just appreciated it for what it was, and I wished to write songs like that, but I didn't really think much on how I could emulate that style or like use it into my own right. I think I was just truly caught up in like the distraction of like studying engineering and like trying to get this perfect sound. And now that I look back at like the stuff that, I took that album down that I did in college. I re-released a couple songs, but most of it is like I cringe to even hear what I wrote.
Can I playfully challenge you?
Okay.
So how can you ask or, call on others to release more things when you've taken down some of your early work?
Because you can always take it down. You can these
there we
people
go.
these
Fine.
people I'm
That's
telling
fair.
they can do
That's
the same
fair.
thing I
Okay.
did. You don't need, and that's part of it, is that's why I'm saying to release stuff, because if you pressure yourself to only release things that you know you're going to love for the rest of your life, you're never going to release anything. So at the time that's what I liked. Like the songs from Phantom Burn that were like, they had catchy choruses and there was like offbeat like cymbals, and it was very like indie pop playlist. Not all of it, but some of it was. It's very much, I would never write songs like that now. But at the time that was right for me. So I was like honoring what was right for me then. And now it's different, and you can always, it's, the internet is forever, but you do have control over what you put out there. So
I really appreciate you reframing it like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Anytime you go through a phase in your life, you're gonna cringe when you look back at it. But it's like you should respect the person that you were back then. Not to like, I don't want to shame my old self for like the stuff that I was writing, but it doesn't represent my sound today. That's why I took it down. Like if people were to go on my Spotify and hit shuffle, I don't want one of those songs to come up because that's not what I would put out anymore. So, but there's some people who, like Tim loves when artists have all their old stuff up so you can see the changes. You can like witness the evolution.
That's really
That's
cool.
a totally
That'd be
valid
my
point.
argument.
Yeah, that's a totally valid point, and there's probably a lot of people who would benefit from that. Just personally, that's not my taste.
So just to revisit your point, is that there's so many negative things with the internet, but one thing that's a positive is that we have more agency over what we put out there and the emphasis that we can put on it.
Exactly.
That's cool. So you can be confident in going for interest currently, but not needing the existential affirmation that this is it, this is the right track, that this is my sound that I got to hone in forever.
Exactly.
Cool.
That
Okay.
is exactly what I mean. Because I feel like when you are operating under the idea that if I put something out, it's there forever, and people are going to judge me for this for the rest of my life, and this has to be perfect. Like that's why people get stuck in like mixing an album for 5 years, and then
Yeah.
nobody ever gets to hear it, and it's not doing anything in your house. Like you're not inspiring anybody, or so.
So being that you have the songwriting, the the music theory background, as well as an engineering background, what would you say for those people who are in that exact place that you're talking about, not about their style changing over the years, but they're fixated on a mix and they want to get it out there. But just to give a personal experience, like the song's done, I love it. I listen to it in a car and it sounds like an earthquake is going on. I shouldn't put that out there. You know what I mean? Like,
And that's that's one of my contentions with audio engineering. When I was like 16 and I was applying to colleges, I was applying to the one that I went to, and I was touring it and I was speaking with the audio engineer professors, and I brought that question up to them. They were like, what is one thing you wish you knew about audio engineering? And that's basically what I said. I was like, why does everything sound so different in different headphones, playing on the phone, playing in the car? And they were like, oh, you'll learn why. We'll teach you that here. And I can tell you today, they did not explain it. Basically, like, I mean, every speaker that's playing music has, it's going to sound different on your phone than it is going to sound in the car versus how it's going to sound in your AirPods. And that is just a fact of life. And the best you can do is try to find a middle ground and like play it in all those places and then go back and make like the tiniest adjustments. And then just, you're going to have to like Goldilocks it. There's really no way. It's like if you were an artist and you were putting out something and if it was perceived on like a digital phone versus like a canvas in like a gallery versus on a billboard, the lighting's going to be different. The size is going to be different.
wow.
If there's clouds in the sky, it's going to look different than if it's sunny.
So there's
Like,
so many different conditions.
yeah.
In regards to hearing it in a car, maybe
Yeah.
you might have super bright highs and super low lows.
Yeah,
Okay.
because like people's home systems and even every single like type of brand of headphone and like they all have different frequency spectrums, how they output it. So you could have like the muddiest mix ever, but if somebody has headphones that have like no low end, it's going to sound bright to them and vice versa. So there's only so much you can do. There's only so much you're physically in power of, and that's also why I say that to encourage people to just say fuck it and put it out there. Because if you're torturing yourself over it doesn't sound identical in the car that it does to my headphones, you're never going to put anything out because it's never going to sound right.
Okay.
It's never going to sound exactly the way that you want in every medium just because that's the nature of how it works. But
So curious about your perspective. Would you say there's any such thing as like the perfect mix? Like, do you know when it's the perfect mix, or is that an unachievable idea?
well, that's a tough question now because lately I've been not trying to go for like a perfect mix. I'm like back in the day when I was really trying to go for that like clean polished sound, I would stress over that and like re-listen and retweak and retweak. But now that I'm kind of freed myself up to do more of like a lo-fi thing, I kind of just mess with it once and say fuck it, I put it out there.
And honestly, that's one of my favorite things about your music is that it has this element of like timeless charm, that it feels very earnest and very authentic, but not necessarily playing towards a specific confine. Like country feels really honest, but there's a lot of country that leans into the honesty, therefore it becomes formulaic. So I like that playing with sound and I guess some of the textures that go into it naturally, that you can kind of use that as a tool to like free you up expressing what you actually want to express and not taking a predetermined road.
Yeah, I mean, that exact same sentiment also applies to songwriting for me because when I was in college and I was doing all that stuff, trying to get on playlists and stuff, and we were learning in like songcraft classes the formula, like the verse, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, the whole thing.
Okay.
And at the time, I was like, I gotta do that. I gotta do that so I can get it on playlists. I gotta do that so it's catchy. And I don't like. I was just in a very different mindset than I am today. Because today, if I write a song, it's because a line or like a musical idea came to me, and now instead of taking that idea and trying to hammer it into a formula, I only do what feels right. And if that means that there's a chorus, then there's a chorus. If that means there's 10 verses and nothing else, then that's what it is. If that means it's just like 5 lines of poetry with music to it, like that's with my underground EP. That's really what I was going for. Like the songs Icebox and Brand New Phonograph was just like poetry that I had written that I put to music. It was not intended to be a song with like traditional song structure at all. And that idea is what it's made a major change in like my approach to creativity and wanting to write, because I don't have to worry about, but it needs a bridge. And now I have to sing the chorus 3 times, even though I know the people are sick of hearing it.
So it sounds like you've come to a place of acceptance with trusting your intuition.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So did you go through a personal process of slowly trusting your intuition more over time, or did you kind of come to reframe something that you understood a different way? That's cool, because I think
hard.
My favorite artists have nutso song structures, and sometimes maybe they'll have an album where it's like, was that even the same artist? And
Yeah.
just fun bending of confines like that. Yeah. So how did you get there?
It's hard to say. I think I am constantly trying to feel like I'm more honest with my music. And if it does not feel honest for me to write with the intention of writing within a traditional song structure, like it feels like I'm taking an honest thought and then like squeezing it like a rag and then like forcing it into this box instead of just writing down what comes to my mind. And then if it happens to follow like a verse chorus structure, then that's by chance instead of like, I don't know. It's hard to say, but I'm always wanting to feel like I'm writing exactly what I want to write at the time and not feel my hand is forced by anything. And so the more and more I do that and just let myself, like that song Icebox, it's like 1.5 minutes and it's like 5 lines and 2 of them repeat. It's like it's barely a song, but to me that felt right. That felt right for that song. That felt right for those lines. So I've tried to remove all pressure on myself for trying to like, you got to fill out 3.5 minutes.
Okay.
And the chorus has to be 3 times so it's catchy and it sticks in your ear. Like I just give 0 shits about that anymore, and it's been so nice to just not worry about that anymore.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like your music education, it does not serve as a checklist for what making a song or making an album has to entail, but it's more of a reference point to determine where you want to go and what you might like. Yeah, so not a quota, and that's a tough idea to get behind, because I dabble in just like a little bit of everything creative, but I feel like the toughest part is finishing anything, at least for me. That idea of pure creativity, of joy and intuition, I feel like that's kind of inevitable to show up, but then to treat that idea respectfully and not let other ideas that have become internalized or might become internalized affect it. Do you like do this in one sitting? Do you come back to it? How do you stay respectful towards your creative intuition?
Well, what I mentioned before is definitely one of the ways that I honor my like creativity and my ideas is by letting it exist in the state that it wants to exist and not like forcing it into a traditional song structure. That's definitely one of the ways. And then another one I would say is just, it's the way that I'm wired to write. And we talked about this before, but just when an idea comes to me, I have to drop my whole life and I just have to sit down and I have to write it that day, and it's done that day. It's done in 10 minutes or it's done by that night. And it's not that I want it to be that way. It just, I like lose control of my body and it just has to happen. And
So that
it's
sounds like
it's like a
all-encompassing
possession
intuition.
and it just comes out.
A possession
Yes.
has to come out. I like that.
So that's just the way that it's always been for me, and there's nothing I can do about it. But it works great for me.
Okay,
because
cool.
like when I'm done with it, I know I'm done with it, and I never come back, and I never rewrite, and I never change lyrics. I only do exactly what felt right in that moment when I was writing it. The only times I've been like insecure about the lyrics that I wrote are the ones where I came back and changed it after, because it doesn't feel right anymore. It doesn't feel honest. It wasn't where my brain was at when I wrote that song. So it feels like I'm like trying to, I don't know. It feels like I'm trying to put other parts on this thing that are from like a different beast. And I'm trying to do it in the name of perfectionism, and it never works. So I've just stopped. I just let it be how it was. And if there's a line that I don't love, then what is that? 2% of the song? I'll just write another one that I like better. Like, I never go back and re-wrench things out ever.
Wow, okay.
The only time I ever go back is just to add more parts to it, to add more violin or whatever. I never change my original idea.
So repeating that back is that you only revisit things that you've created to further affirm what idea initially sparked it, and not doing any sort of editing in regards to the essence of the song.
Correct.
That's cool. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So
It's scary to do that, because if you get in your head, it does put pressure on the creative process. But if you just let that go and you just let it flow out, and you learn to be satisfied with the thing that you created in the moment, it's a freeing thing. But I would say this process not only works, but it works best for the people who are like me, that have this like frantic, when they have the idea, it comes out it just vomits out on the page. For the people that are like really slow goers and they write like a line at a time over like years, I don't know if this process would work for them, just because I don't even know how that would be feasible.
Also,
but
just with that idea of someone writing a song over the years, yes, it's still inherently creative, but an analytical element has become extremely heavy in years and years. Like that's truly a discipline. Not saying that that's good or bad. It's just a different one.
Mm-hmm.
So just to revisit some ideas to make sure that I have some cool things to keep with me.
Mm-hmm.
Respect the process, and by that I mean have a strong support for your intuition and where the song feels like it needs to go, but also have acceptance of where it is right now is totally where it's meant to be.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So those takeaways are clear. I'm a little bit less clear on the audio engineering side. Just to revisit that bass example, when the bass is buzzing in the car, should I upload it? Because I don't want to give someone a bad experience.
Right. I mean, that's tough. I think when I'm concerned about a mix, I personally always boil it down to the AirPods mix, because that is what, in my experience, most of my friends listen on their AirPods. I listen on my AirPods. And if I'm ever concerned about if it sounds right, I always do the final check on my AirPods. So honestly, in my opinion, if it sounds good on your AirPods, and the reason I say that is because AirPods, if everybody owns Apple AirPods, that frequency spectrum is always going to be the same, so that you know that if it sounds good on your AirPods, it's going to sound good on a random stranger in Iowa's AirPods. Versus their car, your car is going to sound totally different from my car, because people that have a stereo system, like subwoofers in their car, is going to sound completely different than a van from the 70s or something. Like, you have zero control over somebody's vehicle, but you have control over an AirPod mix. So
I think that what you said right now just affirms your previous ideas even more so, that you just go with your intuition of what people are going to listen to it on, or what you want them to listen to it on, and then just accept that that's the best sounding one, and just go with it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I feel like as I've grown older, I've learned the art of acceptance and letting things go, because I never used to be that way, and I would just fret and fret and fret. But life is way too short for that, and I think that new philosophy that I've been operating under has just been really freeing, and it's allowed me to just like come up with stuff that I'm actually proud of now, instead of stuff that felt disingenuous. And
Cool.
yeah.
Where do you think this headspace is going to move you forward to? What are some projects that you've been working on, and are looking forward to in the future?
Well, I'm trying to do another full length album, because I put out an EP, and so I want to follow it with another full length. I'm only 2 songs in because my life is really busy right now, but that'll be there in the future, and it's probably going to be along the same lines as my full length album Hummingbird, but I think it's going to be a little less. It's hard to say, because I'm only 2 songs in, so it's kind of difficult to give an idea right now. But
when it's up there, and by the up there I mean uploaded.
Yeah.
I'm stoked to give it a listen and to see you perform it around town.
Yeah. Well, right now, my trajectory is kind of kiboshed, because I was talking with my coworkers, and in the spring, I did karaoke once. I never do karaoke, and I did, and I sang Nude by Radiohead. And someone posted on Craigslist in like the Missed Connections page about me singing Nude, and like how good it was, and they wish they could have told me. And it was such a weird situation. And my coworkers were like, "You have to release a cover of Nude," and then they said that the other day, and I was like, "Oh, I'll think about it maybe." And then that creativity demon it's in my brain, and I've had to like vomit it out. So the last 2 days I've been recording that cover of Nude.
Nice.
And I didn't want to do that, but it had to happen. It possessed me, and it had to happen. So that'll probably come out soon. I wanted to like get it out of my system.
That's really inspiring to hear, of that how you've affected the audience has affected how you're going to move forward and what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like life imitates art, and art
Yeah.
imitates life. That's really awesome to hear, that your social connection with music is really prosperous for the creator and for the listener.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's awesome. And
I don't think I'll ever do it again. I think this will be my one cover that I just put out
so
there.
Hannah's going to do a full album of covers
Yeah.
with just 2 originals.
Well, I had considered doing an album of covers like what Tim did. He did an album called My Little Cronies, and it was songs from his friends, and he covered his friends' songs. And I have considered doing a cover album of only like songs that have really changed my life and influenced me. And some of them would be my friends, like some of them would be Victor's music. But I don't know. Maybe if I had an extra couple hours a day, I would put that as another project. But for me right now, the more important thing is just like writing my own stuff. So maybe in the future, but
all right. Well,
yeah.
I'm excited to hear all the original and the few not originals that sneak in there. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and talking, and I really enjoyed hearing your perspective.
Thanks. I hope I inspired some people to just say fuck it and put it up there.
There we go. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Hannah.
Yeah.